with an old recording.
Hello. Who likes singing? Me. Good, me too. Are you ready to sing? Yeah. Why don't we stand up? Wow. I love being in front of a choir. I love being involved in performance of any kind. My favourite singing exercise of all, grab your pneumatic drill and dig the road. Music is so integral to my life. Very good, that's fine. I wake up in the morning and it's really the first thing I think about after coffee. Are you ready? Yes, Gareth! Yes, good. 1, 2.
If anybody asks you where I'm going...
Choirmaster and TV presenter Gareth Malone was born in London in 1975. His father, James, worked in finance. His mother, Sian, was a civil servant.
My parents met doing amateur dramatics. I think their eyes met across the stage. And so I am the product of a musical liaison. When I was growing up, music was a very normal part of life. It was just me, my mum, my dad singing songs together. Gilbert and Sullivan and musicals, always singing. On a Sunday, if somebody was round for Sunday lunch or something, go and do, I always have to do a turn. I was to, bring out Gareth, do a song. In my DNA, I'm sure there's a little switch for singing and it's on. There's a fire in my belly about music that has just always been there. I want to find out where my performance gene comes from. I feel like it's all sort of filtered down and I've just got a lot of the kind of ta-da gene, if that's a real thing. So I'm not a scientist.
Gareth's come to Bournemouth, the seaside town where he grew up and where his parents still live.
It's quite funny to be back here. I used to busk right there, just outside this department store. We used to have a band, it was just me and some schoolmates, and we used to do Guns N' Roses covers and Beatles, and we'd sing for hours and hours and make about £20. And very humble beginnings for my musical career. Home sweet home. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
Good to see you.
Come on in.
Smells of new paint. Oh, and there's me. This is me at the piano.
When you were 18 months old.
Goodness me, I was fat.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
you're smiling away.
Right at home, aren't I?
Yes.
Making up pieces on the piano.
You used to
Yeah.
bash
Sing
away.
away, yeah, yes.
Right, yeah, this piano, but in our old house in
Yes.
London. Did you always think I was going to be a performer? Did you always think I would?
I
go
did.
into it?
You did, didn't you?
Always.
From when I was little?
From when you were very small.
Yeah.
You would perform to anybody, really, at the drop of a hat. It was very funny to watch.
Yeah, I've not stopped that, really.
Yeah.
And then this is me and my grandfather, Papa, as I call him.
Yes, yeah.
Look at that cheeky face. I must be, what,
About 2.5.
2.5?
Yeah. You're obviously sharing a joke of some
Yeah.
kind.
Well, I
Yeah.
always loved being with my grandfather because he was fun and silly and playful and comic. I really feel like he's a sort of frustrated performer.
When he was young, he had a good baritone voice.
He wasn't on the stage.
He wasn't on the stage, no, although his grandfather, he was on the stage.
His grandfather is this man.
Edmund Payne.
Yeah. Short little fellow.
Yeah.
So he's my great-great-grandfather,
Yes.
Edmund Payne. I mean, that's a name that I've grown up with because his photo's on a wall. I love this one. The Toreador. There he is, acting the clown. And that's George Grossmith Jr.
That's right.
This was the person that he performed with.
Yeah, they played together a lot.
In London.
Yes. I once heard a recording of Edmund Payne on Radio 3.
I remember this. I had to go into school to pick something
Yes.
up, and I came out of the car, and she
it was
was
finished.
flapping her arms about. I was like, "Come quickly!" And I was being very nonchalant because I was a teenager.
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe
you've
that.
not heard it since?
Not heard it since, no. Family legend has it that there's a film of Edmund Payne as well, but we've never tracked it down. I don't know where it is. I'd love to see it, but,
right.
but
So did I. I'd love to know more about him and what he was actually like as a person, and
Yeah.
because you know there's more to someone than their stage self. What's this?
This is the family
Where did you
tree.
get this? I've never seen this.
Going right
Oh, this is so exciting. So hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4 generations, 5, 6 generations back to
yes.
Dan Lowry. Now, I know the name Dan Lowry from my childhood, but
Dan Lowry was a music hall impresario, and he started a theatre in Dublin called Star of Erin, I believe.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Really?
they did.
That's amazing.
How he came to that, I don't know.
This is Dublin here.
This is Dublin.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
a story there.
Yes, there is a story there.
Oh God, I've got so many questions. So I shall have to be a detective.
Yes, good luck.
I know, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to have to get a deer stalker.
Gareth has discovered that his 4 times great-grandfather, Daniel Lowry, was an impresario, a theatre manager in Victorian Dublin. But before exploring his life, Gareth is first going to follow the trail of his great-great-grandfather, Edmund Payne, a comic actor.
I've walked past this picture, I don't know how many tens of thousands of times, because it's been up in our house since I was a kid. But Mr. Edmund Payne, I know very little about. I know he performed, but really that's it. Don't know what he was like off stage, I don't know about his family. I don't know much about where he lived, anything like that. I'd really like to find out more.
When Edmund performed in the early 1900s, there were nearly 20,000 working actors, and competition for roles was fierce. In an era before television, and with film in its infancy, theatre was the entertainment industry of its day. Gareth's meeting historian Matthew Neal at Her Majesty's Theatre.
Wow! I haven't been here since I was 14 and I sat down there and watched Phantom of the Opera. Good to meet you, hello.
Hello, Gareth. Very nice to meet you.
You're going to be able to tell me something about my great-great-grandfather?
I am indeed. I've got a couple of things I'd like to show you.
Coronation Gala performance by command of the King, His Majesty's Theatre, June the 27th, 1911.
1911.
I can't believe it, this is so exciting. So there's a lot of Shakespeare. Merry Wives of Windsor with Ellen Terry.
Indeed.
This is a big night of entertainment. The Critic by Sheridan. George Grossmith Jr., that's the name I know. Edmund Payne. And there he is. Wow. Playing Sir Christopher Hatton.
The Critics was a burlesque, really, a parody of the business of putting on a play. It would have been a little bit of light relief after all this rather heavy Shakespeare. Because,
Yes. This is extraordinary.
And I think it's a mark of the esteem that he was held in, that he was chosen to be part of this big theatrical event. And in 1911...
He stood right here.
He stood right here.
That's great.
The 1911 Royal Gala performance, dedicated to the new King George V, boasted the brightest theatre talent. Edmund was a star of musical comedy, a hugely popular genre that showcased his ability to sing and dance and to play the fool. In a career lasting over 30 years, Edmund made a name for his playful, often slapstick humour.
Edmund was an extremely accomplished comic actor. Well over 300 roles in his entire career.
Wow. So he really was at the top of his game. I had a sense that he did all right, but this is fantastic.
And I also have another document here. This is actually the prompt book of the critic that night.
This is the actual one.
Yes. And it would have sat situated over there in the prompt corner,
Yeah.
and it would have been used to prompt the actors should they forget their lines.
And there he is, Sir Christopher Hatton. True gallant rally, but oh, thou champion of thy country's fame, there is a question which I yet must ask, a question which I've never asked before. What mean these mighty armaments? Points left.
Points left.
Does business with
Business
stick.
with stick.
Probably whacks him on the head, or trips over.
Absolutely.
Pokes him in the eye. That's great.
And then we have here a book by a critic of the time, and in here he has a description of Edmund.
Gosh. Payne was a little man with a very funny face, with which he could work wonders. A real funny man who was never vulgar. He could both sing and dance. Great, good man. Well, I've not inherited the dancing very much. His greatest asset was his lisp. It gave a perfect character to the lovable little men he always impersonated. A lisp.
A lisp.
A comic lisp.
A comic lisp.
If he allowed himself a little festivity after a successful first night, he would go to Gow's, the famous restaurant in the Strand. There he would celebrate with a real blowout of 2 sausages and a bottle of Guinness. I think we'd have gone on very well. Living in Stoke Newington, near Clissold Park. That's like 3 minutes from my house. He rode to and from the Gaiety on a bicycle, sometimes a tricycle. Teddy Payne, as everyone called him, was a universal favourite. That's so wonderful. And a very great comedian. Wow. I mean, we have his picture up in my parents' house, and I've seen it. I saw it every day of my childhood, but I don't think I had any sense of just how famous he was and how appreciated he was.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'm tremendously proud of my great-great-grandfather being here, performing for the King. You know, I'm very lucky to have also performed for royalty, and I remember the effect it had on my family and how much pride they had in my small role that I had in that performance. And I bet it was exactly the same for Edmund Payne. And he was somebody who could make people laugh. And what's better than that?
Gareth's come to Clissold Park in Stoke Newington, the area of London Edmund made home. He's meeting one of Edmund's relatives, Leslie Elson.
Hello.
Hello, Gareth.
Hi. Very nice to meet you.
And nice to meet you too.
And we're related.
We are, yes. I'm Edmund Payne's great-granddaughter.
And I'm his great-great-grandson.
Yes, so we are cousins.
We're cousins. Oh, that's fantastic. I know a little bit about his performance life, but I know nothing about his family.
Okay.
At all. What have you got in your brown
Right, the
envelope?
first thing to show you
Yeah.
is the marriage certificate of Edmund's mother and father.
Oh! I've been really wondering about where he came from. So this is marriage solemnised in the parish church in the parish of St Leonard, Shoreditch, August the 8th, 1859. Hang on, this is Edmund Payne as well.
That's not our Edmund
This is
Payne.
his father. So everyone's called Edmund.
Edmund Payne. There's a lot of Edmund
Well,
Paynes.
it's my middle name is Edmund as well. My grandfather's called Edmund, and then my great-great-grandfather's called Edmund, and then my great-great-great-grandfather. Is this him?
I'm not.
You're not called Edmund. You should be. It's a great name. What's this say? No! What does that say?
Chairmaker.
Oh, damn, I thought it said choir master. Just for a minute.
He was a
A
chairman.
chairmaker. Well, OK, chairmaker's a good profession. I'm
Father-
kind of gutted. It really does look like choir master. OK.
All right.
And then you've got more.
I have more. So the next
Great.
thing I would like to show is the 1881 census, which shows the Payne family.
Wow, yes. Edmund Payne, the father, important.
That's the father.
The father. 43 at this point. And it says here, chairmaker employing 4 men. So he was doing all right. Oh, that's nice to know. OK, and children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children. Edmund J. This is
That's our Edmund.
my great-great-grandfather. He's 17 and he's a ticket writer. Oh.
A ticket writer is somebody who worked at front of house and issued tickets in the theatre.
Oh, he's got the bug already.
He's in there.
And he's 17.
Yeah.
Good man. So he didn't follow his father's footsteps?
No, so he's not following in the family tradition
No,
of
he's
chair
breaking
makers.
out. But if he was employing 4 men, presumably he's doing well enough that he could say to his
Yeah,
son, go
but
and go and indulge your ridiculous
Well, that's
aspirations
it.
to be an actor.
Which was quite forward-thinking of them back in those days to follow his dreams. And his dream was to be on the stage.
Oh, history has repeated itself in my generation.
Yes.
I
So
rather
to
like
speak.
that. Is that the first theatrical person in the family, then?
As far as we know, yes, but I'll show you something else.
More. Oh,
You'll like this.
good. I mean, it's not warm out here, but the cockles of my heart are warmed by this story. Yes. Oh, there he is. Oh, what a fantastic picture. And there he's on a kid's tricycle.
You're a very keen cyclist.
Probably not on this bike.
Not on that one. And he looks a nice father.
He does, doesn't he? He looks
Not the
warm.
stern Victorian image.
My family seem to think that there's a bit of film of Edmund Payne.
There is. It's called the Gaiety Duet.
What's it like? The Gaiety Duet?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes. Obviously silent.
Yeah.
But you get the essence of the man from the film.
Where
So-
would I go?
There you
Oh, no! Oh, wow, thank you.
Oh.
That's so nice. That's really lovely. It's so, you know... sorry, I've got to go and watch this. Oh, thank you. I'm so excited about it. I have to say, when I was handed this by Leslie, my immediate thought was, my grandfather has to see this. My grandfather is 94, and he won't be around forever, and he's never seen this film. And here it is, I've got it. I want to go and see him, and I want to show him this.
But before leaving London, Gareth hopes to track down one final piece of evidence.
I'm going back to Bournemouth later to show my family the film of Teddy Payne. But before I go, I want to see if I can find a recording he made that I heard a brief moment of when I was about 16, 17. So I'm going to the British Library, where I think if it's going to be anywhere, it'll be here.
The British Library holds over 1 million audio recordings, including many from the early 20th century, when Edmund was at the peak of his theatrical career.
I'm really enjoying being a detective. I always wanted to be a detective when I was a kid, and I feel like I'm sneaking around, finding out about the past. It's really fun. I'm in the British Library, and I'm looking on the Sound and Moving Image Catalogue, which is where I hope to find a bit more information about Edmund Payne. Payne. Ooh, here we go. An oral history of the Wine Society. What? Doesn't sound right. Oh, here we go. Protéger les repos de vie. Offenbach. Grossmith, George Jr., sung in English. Recording. Right, details. What is this? There is contributor Payne, Edmund, singer. Tag vocal music. Play this. Oh, great. I've waited a long time to hear this. It's just really crackly. Ah! There's a little orchestra. Like a brass band. I think that's him.
And of ourselves we take good care to risk our precious
That's amazing.
I
I mean, it's a comic voice. Oh, that's great. Oh,
Or a little boy that
what an incredible sensation to hear a voice, to hear these two men.
We run them in to show that we're the bold
The Bold Gendarmes. Funny.
gendarmes.
I know this song because I performed it with my dad in the Bournemouth Music Festival in, I think, 1997.
Hello.
Oh, he's talking.
What is that little child doing in the field yonder? What is that old woman doing in the back garden there? Washing her face.
Washing her face.
That you can hear that they're theatre people, so they speak like that.
Provided that they make it right.
Oh, I can't believe it's my great-great-grandfather. It's fantastic.
Or give to us our proper. We run them in, we run them in, we run them in.
We run them in to tow them where the ocean comes.
Gareth's back in Bournemouth to share his discoveries with his parents and his grandfather, Papa. Edmund died before Papa was born, so they never met.
Hello, Papa, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, lovely to
See you. You all right?
How did you know I was coming?
I don't know, I just had a sense. You're invited, come on in. Come in. How was your journey? Was it all right?
Okay, no trouble at all.
No traffic?
Piece of cake.
Good. Go on through to the sitting room.
Give me. Your grandfather.
Salute your grandfather. Go on in. Through here, come on through. You're probably wondering why I've gathered you here today. Well, the reason is I've been looking into our family history.
Yes.
And the name I've been focusing on has been a name that we know very well, which is Edmund Payne.
Yes.
Your grandfather, my great-great-grandfather.
Yeah.
And amazingly, I managed to track down one of his relatives, one of his descendants that we didn't know about.
Oh. What's her name?
Leslie. I said to her, look, we've got wind that there is a film of Edmund Payne.
Yeah.
And she just said, yes, I've seen it.
Oh, no.
So she said she's seen it, and she says it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, where is it?
It's all right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
You've never seen this, have you?
Oh, no, I really have never.
Well, this is it. So this is, it's called the Gaiety Duet.
Ah.
It has George Grossmith Jr. in it and Edmund Payne. Would you like to see it?
Yes. I'd love to.
Yeah. Let's watch it. I didn't know how famous he was and how successful he was, but he was hugely successful. By the way, it's silent.
I've wanted to see this for 94 years now. I'm going to see it dance.
Well, this is the moment of truth. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
Gaiety Duet.
Yeah, did you?
Oh, there he is! That's him! That must be George Grossmith Jr. on the right.
Oh, he was very famous too, yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
George Grossmith, sort of typical straight man, isn't he?
Yeah. And Teddy Payne's doing the clown.
Slapstick.
It's great, isn't it? He's got a funny little stature, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's tiny. It's quite round.
Yes, but quite right, but very distinctive.
Apparently he had a lisp.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. His father was a chairmaker.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. What's it like to watch your grandfather?
It's too much.
Yeah.
It's incredible, actually. Really is.
You get sort of the true character coming through rather than just a still photograph.
Mm.
I've always longed to see my grandfather. And I've seen him now. Yeah.
I feel so lucky that I had seen and heard my great-great-grandfather from over 100 years ago. I can't describe it, really. It's extraordinary. It's overwhelming, actually, to be able to watch him and to be able to hear his voice. And that's going to stay with me for a really long time.
We're public guardians, pulled yet wearing,
and of ourselves we take good care.
to
risk our precious lives, we're chairing.
When danger looms, we're never there.
This whole process feels like a gift for my grandfather, really, as much as it's for me. And that's really special.
We run them in.
We run them in.
We run them in.
We run them in to show them we're the bold gendarmes. It's interesting, I mean, the picture in the hall that I've looked at so many times, you just get the sense of a clown, somebody sort of prattling around, but he was much more than that. Sometimes our duty's extramural. He made it huge. We like to gamble. I feel like I would have liked him a lot.
Commune with nature face to face.
I feel a connection to him.
Stand back, returning. Refreshed by nature's holy charms. We run them in. We run them in.
Having explored Edmund Payne's life as an actor, Gareth's now going to investigate his 4 times great-grandfather, Daniel Lowry. According to the family, a theatre manager in Dublin.
I've got the family tree from my mother that suggests that the furthest back we can go at the moment is 1823. And he married somebody called Hannah Elteringham. So I'm going to look them up on the internet, see if there's any more information. First and middle names, Dan Lowry. Year. Birth. 1823. Okay. Okay, Mr. Lowry, where are you? Oh, there's a couple of things here. And is that him? That looks right. Married 1840. Oh, look at that. Right. August the 22nd, 1840. Marriage solemnised at the parish church in the parish of Leeds. Leeds? I'm Northern! Well, there you go. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting to find Dublin. Profession, dyer. Okay. That doesn't sound like my theatrical impresario. I mean, dyeing material. That's a very sort of working class, very different sort of profession. And his father, Patrick Lowry, was a weaver. A weaver? This doesn't fit at all with what my mum was telling me. That just doesn't tally. There's one more thing on here. I might just go back and have a look. Okay, the census, Dan Lowry and Hannah Lowry. Oh, this is 1851. Oh, great. Okay, there's more. Liverpool. And he's moved to Liverpool. Okay, well, we're getting closer to Dublin. Right, there he is. Dan Lowry, head. And now he's 28. And there's children. Thomas, he's 10 years old. And what's that? No, hang on. Servant. They've got a servant. That doesn't sound like somebody who was a dyer in the wool trade. That sounds like somebody who's doing really well for themselves. Now, what's he do? What's this? Oh, it's difficult to read. I'm going to zoom in. Oh, this feels really, really important. I can't read it. S. It's definitely an S, looking at the other words, like scholar. So that's an S. That looks like an I because there's a dot. S-I-G-S is all I can really make out. S-I-P-S? No, not ships, is it? C-O-N, Conne... Is that an E? Connicuts, Connicals, Ablonical? Stig Zablonical. He was a Stig Zablonical. Well, that's the mystery solved, isn't it? That's great. Stig Stag... Do I look very stupid here? What is that? You'll cut this out, right? This is agonising. C-O-N... Concerts. Is it concerts? Does that say sings at concerts? Oh my God. Sings at concerts. It's not ship's conical at all. He sings at concerts. That's Dan Lowry. Okay, oh wow. He was a dyer and he became a singer at concerts. That's fantastic. What kind of concerts? What did he sing? Ah, God, it's so exciting. It's really good. I love Liverpool. That's great. It's fascinating to find that your ancestor did something like leave working in the mills to go off and become Dan Lowry the singer. What made him do that? You know, it takes a kind of certain kind of determination and bravery and sort of feeling that you can't do anything else in a way, that you have to become a performer. And he had the ambition to believe that he was going to become something. But I know from my own life, you know, it's really hard. I had years of doing, you know, not very exciting jobs. I worked in bars, I sold ice creams, I swept floors, I picked up cigarette ends from the beach. I did all sorts of things that were not glamorous for a good 10 years before I finally, you know, got to where I wanted to be. And so I warmed to him for that. And maybe a little bit of that has come down through the generations, a little bit of that, you know, grit or personality or something. I hope so.
Gareth's in Liverpool to meet an expert in popular Victorian entertainment, Dr. Caroline Radcliffe. They're meeting at the Caledonia pub.
Hello. Caroline. Hello. Oh, this is cosy. Oh, I love it. I feel like dancing. Until very recently, I didn't know anything about Dan Lowry at all. It was just a name in the family. So I'm hoping you can fill in some gaps.
Well, this is a Liverpool trade directory from 1857, and you can find his name.
I've just noticed here, lunatic asylum. There's all sorts of things on here.
It's
Provision dealer, tobacconist, and Lowry. Is that him?
That's the one.
Victualler.
Do you know what that is? He's a publican. He's got his own pub now.
Wow. Publican. So in the years since the 1851 census, he's amassed enough money to buy a pub.
Yep.
And this 22 Cleveland Square, where is that?
It's down by the docks. And if I show you this one, you'll find out a bit more about that pub and what he was actually doing with it. And this is a very well-known theatrical paper.
The era. And this is 1859?
Yep.
Oh, Bayliss, no. Okay, just Liverpool. Oh, here we are. Oh my gosh. Liverpool, Dan Lowry's Music Hall. This is a change.
Yep. A lot of pubs at this time turned into music halls. What Dan actually was a music hall performer.
Right.
And he'd already established quite a reputation.
This splendid musical is nightly crowded to witness the following talented company. Mr. and Mrs. Hughes, the clever duettists and pantomimists with their wonderful dog Polly. This is Britain's Got Talent. Dan Lowry, the greatest Irish singer of the present day, bar none. Why is he an Irish vocalist if he came from Leeds?
That was his speciality. Liverpool was full of Irish immigrants. So he chose traditional Irish songs which the audience would have known. It was the real music of the people.
In the 1850s, Liverpool was a thriving port and Britain's second city after London. Migrants came in their thousands, particularly from Ireland, to seek a living. As the city's population boomed, so did demand for entertainment. Many pubs, like Dan Lowry's, were adapted to become music halls. Unlike traditional theatres, they were allowed to serve food and drink during performances.
And we've got some more information about his particular music hall. in this catalogue of all the musicals that were in Liverpool during the 19th century.
All the musicals, right. The Malakoff musical.
Yep.
The Malakoff musical was situated in Cleveland Square and was a very popular resort for youthful and ancient mariners. Outside the Malakoff, there is a statue of Mr. Lowry in one of his favourite Irish characters.
So if we just turn back, there's a picture of the actual Malakoff.
That's it.
And there
he is.
Taking pride of place over his music hall.
Looking quite the gentleman. And was this erected during his lifetime, do you know?
Yes, I think he erected it.
He had a statue commissioned of himself.
He's a real self-publicist.
Yeah.
He needed to be, because to climb from those routes, to establish your own music hall, move up the social ladder, took a lot of business acumen.
Yeah. He's not a dyer and weaver's son anymore. That says quite a lot about him, doesn't it?
Yep.
Dan's music hall proved a big hit. Audiences poured in to see a variety of acts, comic singers, acrobats, even performing animals. And with alcohol flowing freely, Victorian music halls like Dan Lowry's quickly became the place for a drink and a sing-song.
I'll show you something which I think you'll find really interesting.
That's him.
This is him doing one of his Irish songs. Now,
Wow.
Dressed in a sort of typical music hall character.
In all his finery. He's quite a sort of stocky man, isn't he? He looks like he can handle himself.
And the docks were very, very rough at that time. Where you get sailors, there were a lot of prostitutes, fights, police raids.
I'm so glad you didn't tell me he was running a brothel. Maybe you're going to tell me that in a minute.
Now we've got one more thing for you. We've actually managed to find one of the songs that he performed.
Goodness. Pat Came Over the Hill.
Or The Whistling Thief.
What's the song about?
It's about a man who's courting his sweetheart, his Colleen, and his little signal to her is a whistle. So he starts whistling to her. Unfortunately, the mum hears and says, "Daughter, go back to bed. We're not having any of that hanky-panky." You can never take a musical song at face value. You always have to imagine what was going with it, the act and
Yes.
the business, as they called it.
The business. It's just traditional, but with a bit of sauciness and fun.
The audience would have joined in and it would have become a whole...
banging on the table and...
all those sailors.
Yeah.
How's your sight reading?
First rate. Let's have a go.
Let's have a go.
Right, so, ladies and gentlemen, in honour of my great-great-great-great-grandfather, the great Dan Lowry, we give you a very under-rehearsed version of The Whistling Thief. You don't know it? Well, you'll pick it up. When Pat came over the hill, his calling fair to see, his whistle loud and shrill, the signal was to be. Oh, Mary, the mother cried, there's somebody whistling sure. No, mother, it's only the wind that's whistling through the door, that's whistling through the door. Dan must have really had something about him. He's got charm. The dog is barking now. And enough charm to draw in an audience and win them over with a song. Now how can he see the moon when you know he's... And that's what leaps out of this picture for me, is a man who's he's confident and he's able to perform. And here we go again. I'm not such a fool as you think. I know very well it is Pat. Get out, you whistling thief. There was a ready audience for Irish song. And he would get up and he'd entertain a crowd, and people obviously loved it. Though I've lost my eyes, I haven't lost my ears. Oh. I like songs that are light and fun and entertaining and comic, and so did my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Dan Lowry, and that's really exciting for me to find that there's that immediate connection with the past. Now, boys, don't courting go too near the house, do you mind? Unless you're certain. I want to go to 22 Cleveland Square and find out whether there's still anything there, whether the statue's still there. So I want to go and find out. They're able to tell the difference. I hope it is. A fiddle, pig, dog and a man. A fiddle, pig, dog and a man. Well, this is it. This is Cleveland Square. I'm drawn to that building because it kind of looks a little bit like Dan Larry's music hall, but it's not the right shape. It's not wide enough and it's not grand enough. And that building's got, it says 1882, so it's from the right period. Right there, it's not the right building. There's a number 22 on that gate over there. Oh, it's a house. This statue would have been just on the first floor, just there. Oh. I'm really gutted about that. I was really hoping to find Dan still looking out over this square. I get the sense that this is someone for whom things are really beginning to happen. And I want to find out what happened next.
Gareth's going to search the British newspaper archive.
Right, let's have a look online. Okay, newspapers. What have we got? Oh, there we are. There's quite a lot of articles here mentioning him. This is the Daily Post, and that's from 1st of June, 1860. Okay, here we are. Dan Larry's new Malakoff Music Hall, 22 Cleveland Square, just over there. It looks like, I think it must be an advert. Dan, the unrivaled Irish comedian, appears every evening at 10:30 precisely. He's always called the unrivaled, the unparalleled, the sine qua non of music. Oh, brilliant. Oh, here's another one. Huh. Every evening, go and hear Dan, capital letters, with the best company in Liverpool. Dan Lowry, exclamation mark. Pause. Dan Lowry again. And again Dan Lowry. He wants to get his name and his brand out there. Good for him. A private box for captains and gentlemen. Wow, that's interesting. When he says a private box for captains and gentlemen, it sounds like actually he's trying to make this sound like a respectable place. He doesn't just want riffraff, he wants captains and gentlemen. He wants to be the classy establishment that's making more money, perhaps. Okay, this one looks interesting. Daily Courier, 25th of October, 1870. Let me make this bigger. Here we go. Municipal elections, Pitt Street Ward. Last evening, a meeting for the friends and supporters of Mr. Daniel Larry, the people's candidate. Wow, come on, Dan. Was held in the Malakoff Music Hall, Cleveland Square. Dan himself came on amidst loud applause, which he acknowledged, bowing 2 or 3 times. Well, that sounds right. I love that. The idea that he comes out at just a political rally and just bows ceremoniously, like, yes, it's me. That's really interesting. So the Pitt Street Ward, so this is local elections. The people's candidate for Pitt Street Ward, presumably that's this area. So he's really coming up in the world, isn't he? That's extraordinary. He's now wanting to get into politics. What ambition! He must have been a smart guy. I wonder if he was successful. That I want to know.
By 1870, Dan had been performing in Liverpool for over 20 years. His music hall business had flourished, and now he sought a new challenge in local politics. At the time, Britain only had 2 political parties, the Conservatives and the Liberals. Gareth's meeting local historian Mike Royden to find out more about Dan's electoral campaign.
Hi, Mike, hello.
Hi, Gareth. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you.
Hiya.
Why this part of Liverpool? Why have you brought me here?
Right, well, this is the Pitt Street area, and this is the ward where your ancestor, Dan Lowry, decided to go into politics. And this is the area he was going to hopefully represent. And he's decided to stand as an independent Liberal. Now, this was about 20 years before the Independent Labour Party. So he's standing for the working man. And the documents I have here will show you a little bit more about that.
Well, where am I looking?
You'll see here with the Pitt Street ward there.
So this is 1870, the Daily Courier. In this ward, which has generally been considered a Conservative stronghold, there was a perfectly unique contest. The Conservative managers of the ward introduced a very eligible candidate in the person of Lieutenant Colonel C.E. Hamilton, a merchant and ship owner.
Yeah, so as far as they're concerned, anybody Conservative would win this seat. So Dan Lowry was very, very unusual. The determination of this man to stand against all the odds.
Lowry has been steady and industrious and has thrived in all his undertakings, but perhaps he is hardly either in social or mental culture.
Yeah.
The sort of material out of which to manufacture a town council.
He's not the right type.
He's not the right type. He's a bit rough around the edges. When you think of what he's achieved in his life, I know where he's come from. It's very rude.
Very disparaging.
Thank you very much. The right mental culture.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose they were unused to people like Mr. Lowry getting political ideas.
No, yeah, they're not taking this guy seriously at all. You know, with his musical background, I suppose they thought, who is this man?
A singer. It was evident yesterday that a great number of their party considered Dan Lowry's candidature a mere joke. A joke? Oh, and here we have the result. The hourly progress of the voting is shown by the following return. 10 o'clock, Hamilton 70, Lowry 65. It's like the football result. 12 o'clock, 191 to 151 is opening up the lead. Oh, and then at the end, for Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton, 363 votes, and Mr. Lowry, 298. Making the majority for Colonel Hamilton, 65.
Very, very close.
Yeah, so he did well.
I think he did amazingly because, in consideration of about where he came from and the way that the local press treated him as a joke, Conservatives treated him as a joke, he was really up against it, and he did extremely well.
Good man. Mr. Daniel Lowry, who was vociferously cheered, then addressed the assemblage as follows. And this is his words. I threw myself before you as the working man's candidate. Cheers! When I issued myself, I was told I was putting up for the working men. But the reply I gave was, I am a working man myself. More cheers. Let me say that although I have been called a comic singer, I am proud of it. I have amused thousands of you for 23 years in the town of Liverpool. And whenever Dan Lowry is called upon, Dan Lowry is there to sing them a comic song with all his heart. Yes!
But he didn't last in Liverpool much longer. He stayed only about a year.
Really?
And this document here will give you an idea of where he went to next. And if you look at the advert over on the left-hand side...
Oh, yeah, here. I was just reeling from the speech. Star of Erin Music Hall, sole proprietor Mr. D. Lowry. The above hall will open on Monday evening next with a complete and powerful company of vocal and instrumental artists. And where is this? This is...
Look at the adverts, they might give you an idea.
Dublin.
That's quite right.
Well, this is the piece of jigsaw that makes sense to me because my mum always said that Dan Lowry is from Dublin and that he had a theatre there.
Right.
So it's great to find
So
that that's
fits.
true. It's true.
Yeah.
He really did.
Yeah, so we know that he left the following year after the election.
Why?
Well, maybe he thinks he's run his course here. Maybe he was affronted by what had happened to him.
Yeah.
Maybe he thinks it's time to move on.
Dublin. I feel like that's my next
I think that's where
step.
he needs to go next, yeah?
Yeah.
In 1871, Dan Lowry sailed with his family from Liverpool for Ireland. He left his eldest son, 30-year-old Thomas, in charge of his music hall.
There have been so many surprises with Dan, and now he just up sticks and leaves and goes to Dublin. He's a self-made man, Dan Lowry. He branded himself as the ultimate Irish singer in Liverpool, and now he's going to go and take that. That's taking coals to Newcastle, isn't it? Really, going all the way to Dublin to become who knows, a singer and performer and a proprietor over there. It must have been a challenge. I admire that about him, that he's got the determination to succeed, determination to reinvent himself. I don't know what surprises are ahead. I'm sure he's got a few tricks up his sleeve.
When Dan Lowry arrived in Dublin, music hall entertainment was only just catching on. And he had ambitious plans. To find out more, Gareth's meeting Professor Kevin Rockett.
Hello, Kevin.
Oh, hello, Gareth. How are you? Welcome to Dublin.
Thanks very much. I love the pub.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Yeah.
Wonderful. Can you tell me a bit about my great-great-great
I can tell you lots about it.
Good.
But I think we'll find a quieter spot rather than here.
Right, lead on. Past the bar.
Right.
Should pick up a Guinness, really, shouldn't I?
Oh. As it happens, we have one of his music hall programs here.
Is this the theatre?
This is the theatre. Now, this
is amazing. It's huge. There's an orchestra. There's ballerinas, gentlemen in top hats. Goodness me, it looks like an opera house. This is a very, very different theatre from the Malakoff Music Hall in Liverpool. This is quite middle-class entertainment. It's got aspirations.
Exactly, you're pointing out exactly the sorts of things and the image that he wanted to convey.
Because he was trying to make more money?
Trying to make more money, but also maybe it was in part a search for respectability.
I'm amazed because I've gone from Dan Lowry being a sort of man of the people and entertaining prostitutes and sailors in Liverpool to coming to be... He's a social climber.
Yes, indeed.
What drive in this family. It's amazing.
He had a great entrepreneurial spirit and he saw an opportunity because Dublin didn't have a significant music hall.
Oh, look at this. There's so much to take in. Programme for the week ending December the 27th, 1884. Grand production entitled Lala Rook, supported by the following eminent artists. Miss Alice Rogers from the Alhambra Palace, London. The gorgeous dress is supplied by Nathan and Son in Leicester Square. So they're getting the dress. This is very fancy, isn't it? Professor Burr and his troupe of performing dogs and monkeys. He will also introduce for the first time in Dublin his wonderful performing mule. A performing mule.
We don't know what it performed, but
who knows?
Maybe it sang.
That's proper entertainment. I love it. This is a hell of a show. It's got everything. Mules, monkeys, ballerinas and big stars from London. It's proper variety, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
Some more on the back. Oh, there he is. There's a picture. Oh, there's two. Dan Lowry Sr., Dan Lowry Jr. Which is this, then?
By 1884, we have another figure coming into the picture.
Who's that?
That is Dan's son, Thomas, now called Dan.
He's changed his name to Dan?
To maintain
the
marketing of the Dan Lowry name.
That's hilarious.
So what actually happened was that Thomas was summoned over by Dan Sr. to be a manager, as Dan himself was becoming old and somewhat ill. And Thomas was then simultaneously renamed Dan Jr. It was part of the marketing.
Yeah. It's now a brand, the Dan Lowry brand.
That's right. Dan Jr. He was never a performer because he had a serious stammer, but he was a magician at promotion and advertising. And Dan Sr. really left the running of his music hall in Dublin to his son.
Ah. Is there anything there? Can I go and see it?
Yes, the theatre was and indeed still is.
Still there? Not a bingo hall?
Not a bingo hall, a theatre.
That is wonderful.
Perhaps tomorrow it might be possible to see what is actually left.
Oh, you're teasing me. Oh, I can't wait. I'm really bowled over by this. 2 Dans for the price of 1. I can't believe it. Father and son. And I think my family had always had the wrong Dan in their minds. They'd been thinking about Dan Lowry Jr., who was the manager, the impresario. And actually his father is the one that I've been so excited about. And this man who created this theatrical legacy in his family and had all the talent. It's wonderful. Wonderful. What a revelation.
Dan Lowry Sr. died in Dublin in 1889, aged 66. He'd been a performer for almost 50 years. Dan's eldest son, Thomas, now known as Dan Jr., took over the management of his father's theatre. It has since been renamed the Olympia.
Come have a look what I found. There he is, Dan Lowry Sr. He looks rather august and upright in a little bow tie. And it looks like he's in the theatre. There's a hint of a velvet curtain coming down. He looks like a man that's, you know, come good. Wow, look at this.
Welcome to Dan Lowry's.
I can't believe it, it's extraordinary. What a treat, look at that. It's quite ornate, isn't it? Chandeliers, plush boxes, and just vast. It's a really proper theatre.
Yes, this is a really classic late Victorian music hall. The 1897 version restored to all its original power and beauty.
Dan Lowry, look where you've got to. And to come from Leeds, working in the mills, to a building, to owning and running a building like this, amazing.
Yes. They're doing extremely well. The family have truly arrived.
Yes. And it's still a theatre. I can't believe it. It's really amazing. I mean, of all the things for my family to have done, it's extraordinary. Quite overwhelming. What a man. What men.
What men, indeed.
I think I'm going to change my name to Dan. Was that the name, Dan? I set out to find out where this theatrical gene came from. And it's clearly there right through my family, in many parts, but particularly in Dan Lowry Sr. And it's just so moving to be in this room and think, you know, this was my family that built this place up. And here it is 130 years later. When Pat came over the hill, his calling fair to see, his whistle loud and shrill, the signal was to be, oh Mary the mother cried. I've always stepped into rooms like this, and there's one place that I want to be, and it's not here, it's down there on that stage. And Dan Lowry, I think, was exactly the same. The dog is barking now, and a fiddle can play the tune. How wonderful to be related to somebody like that. When they see the moon, now how can he see the moon when you know he's old and blind? Blind folks can't see the moon, nor fiddles be played by the wind, nor fiddles be played by the wind. I'm not such a fool as you think, I know very well it is Pat. Get out.